Now bear with me a few seconds just while I read through a few names. Dean Thomas, Carl Muggeridge, Kirk McCarthy, Chris Vermeulen, Marty Craggle, Warwick Nolan. Got any clues yet? Mick Doohan, Troy Bayliss, Troy Corser, Wayne Gardner, and the Go Show, Anthony Gobus. What have they got in common? Well, they're all Australian. But what I want to know is, what are they all doing over here? Well, not here because we're in Italy, but over here in the UK. Well, I've got one of those with me. His name's Dean Thomas. Dean, well, why so many? I've actually counted up 11 there, and I probably haven't got them all. But I mean, what makes the UK so popular?
I think it's the next step really for them. I mean, Australia's putting out great riders. It's still putting out great riders. I think, they go as far as they can go in Australia, and their next option is either America or the UK.
Yeah, and so is your sort of structure, the race series, is it similar?
It is similar in a way. We don't have Superbike over there anymore. They finished that up about a year or so after I left. I think now it's more of a Formula Extreme class, which I think is a little bit more production based. But basically, I think it's there to cut the expense and try and increase the amount of people in the class and better racing.
So what's in that? Anything and everything, or what? I mean, have you still got what we would call Superbikes racing in that?
Yeah, we still run Superbikes in it, but it opens it up so people can run something like an R1 or a ZX9, more of a production-based motorbike, a higher CC, but the expense isn't there, but the horsepower is.
All right. That's a nice phrase, that. Very cool, that. So what about your background, Dean? How did you start?
I started off motocross and supercross originally, and then went into 250 production racing, which is basically the starting class over there. I rode a KR1, a Kawasaki for a couple of years, and then moved on to the 600s for 2 or 3 years. Worked my way up through the class, and then in 1996 I signed for the factory Honda team on RC45s for the season, which for me was probably my best option over there. It was the best ride I could get. It was one of the top rides in the class. I did a year with that, and then decided that I could either stay in Australia and continue with Superbike, or make the move and come over to the UK.
What did you get at the end of that season on the RC45? Excuse my ignorance, but I mean, where did you come at the end of the game?
I finished 4th in the Australian titles in 1996 on the Superbike, and I won the Australian titles a year before on the 600. So yeah. It all sort of moved along nicely. But as I said, my options were to stay and do Superbike, or to bite the bullet basically and come over to the UK and have a go at the UK series.
Do you know many of the other guys, or do you know all of them? I mean, are you sort of quite a close-knit family sort of thing? And
yeah,
it's all good day and all that.
It's a different class of racing over there. It's more over in England. It's all associated around the racetrack.
Yeah.
Obviously, everybody stays at the tracks. You have your motorhomes, and people tend to to mix a little more in England. Whereas in Australia, it's you're there to race during the day. 6 o'clock of the night, everyone has to leave the circuits. They all go off to their hotels, motels, caravan parks, wherever they're staying. So they tend to separate a bit. But all the Australians that have come over, I think Chris Vermeulen is about the only one that I hadn't heard of before he'd actually come over here.
Yeah, and of course it's a hell of a big country anyway, isn't it? So you've got people spread all over the place geographically anyway.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, and so when you came over to the UK then, who did you start with? Where did you get your first ride?
I started off with a team called Tony Scott Racing at the time, which was a Honda team, a Honda backed team. It wasn't one of the official factory teams, but it was quite heavily backed by Honda.
What was that, on 600s?
It was on 600s, yes.
Yeah.
I felt that it was a step back for me after I'd ridden the Superbike. I didn't really want to go back to a 600 again. But as it turned out, it got me out of Australia, it brought me over to England, which was definitely the best move for my career. And it was definitely worthwhile.